if a solid MCAT score comes about, then I think the 20 hours of postbac work at a 4.0 level can be enough. Okay, well, welcome to Am I Ready? We are here to evaluate an applicant's record to see if they're ready to apply in 22 for the 23 class. And we have been doing this for quite a while now. Did it last year, and now we're doing it again this year. So we're going to meet today a real student, a real applicant, or I guess potential applicant, and evaluate their mapped account and try to understand where we are and where they are and understand better kind of how things look. And then I'll come to some conclusions about whether I think they're ready or not. So it's suspenseful. So there's going to be a drum beat. So let me introduce to you today. This is Edley. Hello, Edley.
Hi, Dr. Wright. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Edley, it's wonderful for you to join us today. Thank you very much. Tell us where you're calling from.
I'm calling from the Bay Area, San Jose, part of California.
Okay, awesome. And now we discussed earlier that you're not originally from California. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm from Miami, Florida. So.
Okay, so you grew up, born and raised in Miami, Florida, huh?
Born in Venezuela, actually.
Okay.
And then immigrated to Miami.
To Miami. Oh, that's awesome. Do you miss Miami?
Oh, so much. I miss the food.
Oh, I bet. That's wonderful. I have to tell you, I'm not a fan of Miami. But I love Fort Lauderdale. So Fort Lauderdale.
The beaches there.
One of my favorite places is Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So South Florida, I'm cool with. So that's good. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at your mapped account and kind of evaluate where things are and stuff. And I'll ask you questions, and we'll see how things go, and I'll come to some conclusions. Does that sound good?
Perfect. Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. So we have mapped pulled up here. Let me get it. There we go. And you recognize this as the dashboard for Mapped. And the very first thing you see when you pull up the dashboard on Mapped is the GPA graph. And we see that listed here. What we see here is an AMCAS GPA calculation, cumulative of 3.38, science GPA of 3.09. And we see a lot here, Edley. There's many semesters here. So why don't you talk to us about this, not only what we're seeing here, but kind of what your journey academically has been. And so just talk to us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I have a lot of semesters because I did a dual enrollment in high school. So got my AA while I was doing high school, and I did 3 years, I think, at a community college. And then I started at my college, my undergrad, and it wasn't a clear journey. It was very rocky, as you can see. Right. So yeah, that downward trend really got me, prepared to like put the big girl pants on and start a postbac. And I did a postbac at UC Berkeley for 3 semesters. And yeah, I got a 4.0. So that's kind of what's picking up my GPA. But
yeah, that's great. Now tell me, where did you go to school originally?
So I went to Santa Clara University here in the Bay Area. And then in Miami, the community college was Miami-Dade College.
Yeah, sure. Good. And then you did the postbac at Cal Berkeley. Yeah. Okay, good. And so what we definitely see here is a downward trend. most specifically looking at the semester by semester, which is the green, the downward trend. But what we also see is in the cumulative as well as in the science, a downward trend. But then we see an upward 4.0 trend when it comes to the Postbac that you did. And now the Postbac was all science or mostly science or what?
Yeah, it was all science, anatomy, genetics, cancer bio, yeah, parasitology.
Yeah. Now, what was the difference between the downward trend? You obviously made a huge difference between what we see, let's say, in the winter 18-19 and then starting the fall 2021. What made the difference for you in terms of that, the difference between what you were doing previously and what you were doing in your Postbac work?
Yeah, so basically my senior year of undergrad was really bad. Several circumstances came up, but yeah, I just wasn't focused. I wasn't like set on medicine. I kind of was lost and focused on other things. So one aspect was like my personal life. I got that together. But then academic wise, like I wasn't studying how I should have been studying. I was just kind of like reading over the lecture notes, cramming a lot, like all-nighters, never retaining information. And I didn't really like the classes I was taking. They were all chemistry classes. And I don't know, it was like physical chemistry and things that are important, but I didn't gravitate towards. But in my Postbac, I decided to take things that I knew I would enjoy, like genetics and anatomy and physiology.
Sure.
And I changed my study habits. I prepared with a lot of time. I used Anki. I used other resources that I didn't have time because I was always cramming. So yeah, a lot changed. And like I was more focused on my path and like what I wanted to do. So that kind of like gave me motivation to actually like get my stuff together.
Yeah, that's great. Now, what was your major at Santa Clara?
So it was biochemistry, but the kind of like the caveat with that was that it was mostly chemistry classes, and I was only allowed to take like 2 or 3 biology electives. And once I completed that, I just had to focus like on the chemistry classes, which being a first gen, I didn't really like have any guidance, and my advisors just kept telling me to change majors, and I was stubborn and like didn't listen to them and just kind of like pushed through, but it wasn't the best decision.
Yeah. Well, but the good news is you figured it out. And you have done an extraordinarily strong job in your Postbac, and that's really key here. And what I want to do here is look at, if we look at the detail, what I want to show here in the detail of the information here, and that would be right. Right here. So what we see here is a Postbac GPA of 4.0. And the medical schools will see that also. They will see the GPA cut up into a lot of different ways, not just a cumulative GPA, not just a cum science GPA, but they're going to see that distinct Postbac GPA also. And they're going to see that as you've done really well in that on those Postbac classes. And so that's really important, I think. That's where you're really, because when you've accumulated as many hours as you have accumulated, mathematically that cumulative GPA is not going to change a whole lot. But so what you're focusing on here is the Postbac GPA, which you've done a really good, strong job at. And so that's awesome. So good for you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, good for you. That's really awesome.
I actually had a question about the
Yeah.
So I kind of been struggling to know if my upward trend in my postbac is enough, because I know that compared to all the previous credits, like 20 credits doesn't seem like a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if like I should continue taking classes, or like is 20 credits enough to show that upward trend?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think it depends a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go along. So I want to put like a little bit of a hold on that,
Okay.
and we'll discuss that a little bit more, and then if I haven't answered it sufficiently at the end, then ask that question again. But I think as you see as we go through this, I think I'll begin answering that
Okay.
question. Okay, does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, what I want us to do now is look down past the GPA. We're going to come back to the activities. You've done all your prereqs, and so you're good to go on that. And then we have the MCAT. So, what we see here is two practice MCATs. Looks like they are half-length diagnostics. One at a 491, one at a 497. Now you have done. Now, are you doing Blueprint as a course, or did you just take the practice exams? Or tell me a little bit about what you're prepping, how you're prepping for MCAT looks.
Yeah, so I've been pushing off doing a diagnostic for a bit, but I finally did it this weekend. And compared to my previous exam, which it was before my postbac, it was a little bit lower. So this is kind of like my starting off point. Basically, I'm using Kaplan books, some of the Blueprint, like the 10
Mm-hmm.
exam bundle.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like a self-study schedule. So I'm kind of just starting off. And I have a scheduled MCAT date for end of April 29th.
April 29th. Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay. Excellent. 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 So now, what I would say is diagnostic wise, a 497 is a great diagnostic score. So that's encouraging to me. And you've got, you've scheduled the exam to give you plenty of time to study. So, you basically have between now and the end of April, about 5.5, 6 months to really focus in on studying for the MCAT. And I think that's going to be the real key for you. So this goes back to the question that you had asked a few minutes ago about, is the postbac of 20 hours enough? And I think the MCAT is going to be a crucial part of that in terms of how that looks for you. So what I would say is I want to see a good, strong, solid MCAT score. And if a solid MCAT score comes about, then I think the 20 hours of postbac work at a 4.0 level can be enough. I definitely think that can be enough. Now, what I would say is, yes, if you took more classes, it would give more credibility to that 4.0, to those grades that the difference that you've made in your study habits, things like that, really are true and really are showing, and that it's going well. But I think my concern here is that now you're taking classes currently or no?
No, right now it's just MCAT and work.
Okay. Okay, good. So what I would say is I would say focus on the MCAT.
Okay.
Don't do any more classes. Use the time that you would do taking classes for really preparing strongly for that MCAT. And we'll talk a little bit here in a sec about that more. But I think the time that you're spending, because you're working full time or part time or what?
Yeah, part-time.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got some good amount of time to really devote to that study routine that you're going to establish, and taking as many practice exams as possible, and then studying those practice exams. That's the key, in my view. Is really don't just take the practice exam and see what you made, but then you study the practice exam and you say, where did I do wrong? Why did I get this answer wrong? What do I need to learn or relearn related to that material? What is in the question that could have helped me understand where the right answer was? Stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that's going to be the real key. So I really think that spending the time over the next 5.5, 6 months in deep MCAT study, that's where I would say is going to be your best bang for the buck.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely. Good. Good. Well, let's look then at your activities. And what we see here is 3,369 activities. Looks like they're kind of spread amongst the different, a variety of different things. So we're going to look specifically at all these activities. And so why don't you walk us through this? So walk us through what we're seeing here on Mapped, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, yeah. So the first two were kind of like the bulk of my time in undergrad, honestly. So I have always been passionate about dance, and I joined a salsa club and I became the captain. So
awesome.
I basically led a team. We did competitions. We did just different studies on South American and different Latino styles of salsa. And then I also did, I was the captain of my hip hop, the school's hip hop dance team, which is also competitive. So I led a group of 30 people for 4 years. So yeah, that was the best leadership opportunities that I was able to.
Yeah, absolutely. Great leadership example there. So that's awesome. Good.
Yeah. And they were both in the realm of dance, which combines another one of my passions. So definitely had a great time there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I also in undergrad started a club with a couple of friends. We were the founding board members. It's called Volunteers Around the World. And I was the clinical chair. So I was kind of involved in making sure people knew how to take vital signs, triaging patients. And when they went abroad to these on these trips, and it was to places like Peru. So because I know Spanish and some of the people on the trip didn't know Spanish, I kind of was the trainer for them to, know about the culture, but also know how to talk to patients.
Sure.
So yeah, that was most of my work there. So during the pandemic, during the pandemic, I taught a 2-year-old little girl in language arts and math. It was part of the Colombian Volunteer Tutor Corps, which was, it was all virtual, but it basically was set up to help essential workers who didn't have the time to sit down with their child or family member that was transitioning to a virtual academic environment. So I kind of was a tutor, but also I talked to the mom a lot, just for her to kind of vent to me about the struggles that she was going through at that time.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, that was a eye-opening experience, and
I'm sure
it made me feel like I was helping not only my community, but helping somewhere else.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was also a customer service rep back in Miami just during my winters and summers.
Yeah.
Basically with packages that were being sent to Venezuela, just warehouse and logistical kind of things.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Good. Okay.
And then currently I'm an ER scribe.
Awesome.
At a hospital. So just started that. It's very new. It's very exciting. It's a lot of learning, but I'm really excited about this opportunity. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Great experience.
Yeah, I only have 24 hours right now, but I'm sure I'll have more coming to the application cycle. But so I've also been a medical assistant for several clinics, one of them being pain and rehab, which was just a pain management clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't there for long because the commute was all the way in Oakland. And
that's a long way.
Yeah, while taking postbac classes, they were interfering with my classes, so I had to let that one go. But yeah, it was a really nice experience and opened my eyes up to the opioid epidemic.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was also, so this role is kind of tricky to explain, but I was medical assistant for an urgent care and transitioned to their startup company, which was with mobile COVID testing in the Bay Area. This was like in the height of summer 2020. So height of the pandemic last year. And I was in charge of like swabbing patients. And I also became a lab tech. So I was also processing those samples. And I ascended to be a lab supervisor at the same time.
Awesome.
So it's kind of like a crazy role, happened really fast. Like within a week, I was like moving on to other roles. But I was glad I did that because that really like propelled me into like knowing that I can do this and like motivating me while I was doing my postbac to like continue, making an effort.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely something I want to write in like the COVID essays because so many stories. But
absolutely.
Yeah. It's kind of a lot, but I was also a Spanish medical interpreter. I'm still doing that now, but kind of on hold with the whole COVID volunteering.
Sure.
But we basically like assist doctors in the ER, just interpreting for patients.
Good.
Did some shadowing in the oncology and hematology. And currently part-time when I'm not working, I volunteer as an MA at a family physician office. It's starting off as a shadowing role, but then I kind of became an MA, but chose not to have it like as a paid job because I didn't have to.
Right.
But I've been learning a lot. I do a lot of like physical exams by myself, sometimes injections, sometimes EKGs. So I've been learning a lot.
Yeah. So a lot of great clinical experience.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the last two, I'll summarize it real quick, but because I didn't get the chance to do bench research because I was just so focused on my dance groups. Every like research position I applied to like kind of interfered with my other commitments, so I was never able to like formally be in a research lab. So I decided to try to volunteer to be like a lab tech or research assistant, and I did that for like probably 2 months. So at a company called Sense, which focus on like senescent cells and immunotherapies focusing with NK cells. But did that for a while and kind of stopped it because just COVID precautions. So probably starting that up back again. And last thing was the Y-Core Fellowship, which is basically a community service internship that my group specifically focused on helping manage a volunteer system for a Bay Area nonprofit, which is called La Cocina, which helps women who are starting off their businesses, kind of helping them build up. So we basically did research and interviewed stakeholders in order to make like a more effective volunteer system. So the entrepreneurs can actually use the volunteers to best help them like develop their business.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very good. So what I see here is a lot of great stuff on your activities. You've got leadership experience. You've definitely got community service type experiences that you've been participating in. Lots of clinical experience. Lots of you definitely know what you're getting into in terms of going into medicine. So that's awesome. So I see a lot of good stuff. Here. Definitely encourage you to keep that going, keep that up, and along with, the scribing is going to be great experience. So that'll be a lot of fun for you. You're going to learn a whole lot as a scribe. So that's going to be great. So I'm sure you're super excited about that, right?
Yeah, I am. It's very it's a lot of information to take in
Sure
at
it
once,
is.
but I know that that's just the beginning, and I'm sure that it'll get easier, and I'm
Yeah.
just so excited to
Yeah.
be a part of
Good.
it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very good. Very good. So let's take a look lastly at medical schools. So you've got a list here of 97 medical schools.
Yeah, I when I added these, I was not yeah, I didn't really focus on my stats. I just was like, oh, I
Right.
like this
No,
place,
yeah,
or
that's
yeah.
good. That's good. And this is a part of MAP that I think is a great part of it, where you can go in and look at the details of each school and kind of evaluate it and then highlight it as one that you're interested potentially in applying to. Obviously, over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, you're going to want to pare this down to a manageable group. But
Yes.
what it looks like to me is that you're interested in applying both to DO and MD schools. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm most interested in either staying in California or going back to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also like open to any DOMD school that
Yeah.
kind of fits with my stats.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, one of the things that I would say with that is, you're going to be looking at evaluating, the schools that you're interested in figuring that out. I think the fact that you have been in California for a long time, I certainly encourage you to apply to California schools. It's difficult to get into California schools. You know that already.
Yeah.
And so what I really would say is, because of your ties also to Florida, there are a lot of medical schools in Florida. Apply to all those schools as well, and then a spattering of different ones around the country. So I could definitely see you centering on California and Florida, and then some schools in between. So I would say set a goal to really look at these schools over the course of the next 6 to 8 months or so before you apply, and then have a good sense of the schools that you definitely want to apply to. I would say, keeping it in the area of probably somewhere between 20 and 25 schools, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, just depends on a lot of different factors. One factor obviously is money. It costs a lot of money to apply to medical school. Another factor being geography. Another factor being, kind of schools that are attracting your attention and stuff like that. So there's a lot of details, in terms of how that might work out. But definitely encourage you to look broadly and evaluate the schools that you have the most interest in, and figure out, which ones you feel like really fit who you are and what you're looking for in terms of a medical school experience.
Right. Yeah. Definitely have to do a little bit more research.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, what I would say here, we'll go back to the dashboard, and Edley, what I would really say here is that your picture's a little complicated. The GPA, what it's looking like here, makes it a little complicated, and you sort of already know that. This is not a big surprise to you, but you've done the right thing. I think doing the Postbac work at Cal Berkeley, absolutely what you needed to do. You've done exactly what I would have suggested. You've done really well in those classes, so that's perfect. And you're getting lots of great experience. So really, the key here for you, I think, is the MCAT. And you probably you've anticipated that, and you know that this is the area where you want to really focus your time. You're working, getting good experience. So I would say what you're going to want to do over the course of the next 6 months or so is study for the MCAT really strongly, deeply. take lots of practice exams, study those practice exams, and then and you're going to be working as a scribe. You're going to be doing some a little bit of volunteer work here and there. In addition to that, whether it's the translating or whether it's the volunteer MA the MA stuff that you're doing or other things. So keep that up and do that. And so basically the end result is I'm going to give you a yellow light. So I usually do it as according to a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. So I'm going to give you yellow light mostly because we don't know the MCAT score yet. We don't really know.
Yeah.
But I think I would definitely encourage you to plan on applying in 22. I think that the Postbac work that you've done, along with your vast clinical experience, also really positions you well, and that the MCAT's really going to be an important part of that picture. And then see what happens with that. And what I would say is, you're going to want to set a score to say, if I make X score, I'm going to move forward. If I make less than X score, I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do. And if I make a lot less than X score, then I may have to reevaluate and do that, and potentially take an extra year or something like that. But I would say, all in all, I'm encouraged by what I see. I'd say continue the hard work. Time management's a real key, as I'm sure have already figured out.
Yeah.
And I give you a lot of credit for that. I'm very, very happy that things are going well for you and that you've really turned things around in terms of your in terms of the schoolwork. You've really shown that you can do it and that you can do it at a high level. And that's great. That was absolutely necessary. So, keeping the MCAT, the focus on the MCAT, I would say that, obviously the higher the MCAT score, the more attention you're going to get in terms of, not that MCAT score and GPA are everything. They're not. You've got tons of wonderful experiences, and that's going to be really play in very significantly to what's going to play out in the process. But an MCAT score that's strong is really going to help that out a lot. So I would say, focus on that. I would say set a goal. Maybe you've got so your last diagnostic score. Let me just refresh my memory here. It was a 497. So that's a good, strong diagnostic score. And yeah, absolutely. And so what I would say is, moving up from there, I would set your goal at a 510, if not more. And if you could pull a good solid score at or above 510, I would say, yeah, absolutely go forward. Less than 510, I think you can still move forward, but it would depend a little bit, kind of on a variety of factors, including kind of what that score looks like. But let's be positive. Let's think positively.
Right.
And, yeah. Right. And let's really set our minds on that 510 as kind of a goal score. And do you think that's a reasonable goal score for you?
Yeah, that was my goal score, was between like a 510, 515. So
yeah, sure.
I definitely think that with the amount of months that I have and kind of like the schedule that I'm making, I think I can do it.
Yeah, I think you can too. I definitely do. Well, I definitely think that, my suggestion, move forward. The yellow light is simply just because that's one piece of the picture that we don't know yet.
Right,
and so move forward and see how that plays out. And but all in all, I think you're doing the right stuff. I'm very encouraged by what I see, and I think you'll get some attention, and I think you'll hopefully this time next year you will be on the interview route of things, and you'll be doing some interviews and stuff like that. And then the 2023 comes along, and you'll be a medical student. That's the goal, right?
Yeah, that's the eye on the prize is there.
That's
so.
right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, do you have any other questions before we end the broadcast today, Edley?
I think you answered the increasing upward trend. Definitely, I guess a question that I do have is, let's say, just to be a little pessimistic.
Sure.
I don't get any interviews. I don't do well in this application cycle. What would you recommend for me to do during kind of like while I'm applying, just so I'm able to like present a new application the next time around?
I would, and that's a great question. And I would say it depends a little bit on the MCAT score and what we see from that. What I would say is, if you've got a good solid MCAT score, the likelihood, at least in my mind, the likelihood is it's not going to be necessary.
Okay.
But if it is, then I would say more classes at Cal Berkeley. The more you can pull in, even if it's another 2 or 3 classes over an academic year, the more that you can pull in on that Postbac GPA, the more credible that becomes. And so I would say next fall, in preparation for next fall, you might consider, since you'll be done with the MCAT by that point, you might consider signing up for another class or two at Cal Berkeley, and then continue to do that, showing that trend, that new trend, that 4.0 trend, doesn't have to be a 4.0. Obviously, if it goes down a little bit, you make a B+ in something or an A- in something, that's not the end of the world. But keeping in the classroom, keeping up with those types of things, I think would be good, and that would be my suggestion in the scenario that you presented.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds doable.
Good. Well, Edley, it's been a pleasure having you today on I almost said Ask the Dean. This isn't Ask the Dean. This is Am I Ready? And but thank you for being on Am I Ready today. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and please do keep in touch with us and let us know how things are going.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Absolutely. Great advice, and I feel very optimistic. So
yay, that's awesome. Thumbs up, right? Thumbs up.
Yes, 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. There you go.